Welcome to Tell Me More Stories Told His podcast.
Great to be here.
Today we're jumping into the world of someone truly, well, multifaceted.
Yeah.
Mindy Kaling.
Absolutely. Writer, actor, producer. She really does wear a lot of hats.
Exactly. And we're not just doing a quick recap. We're going on a bit of an adventure, really digging into her journey.
Yeah, looking at the key moments, the inspirations, maybe some surprising stories along the way.
Our mission, if you will, is to kind of piece together what makes her voice so unique, how she built this incredible career in comedy and beyond.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Well, how about right at the beginning with her name? It's not just Mindy Kaling originally, right?
No, that's right. She was born Vera Mindy Chokalingam.
Vera Mindy. Interesting.
Yeah, but the Mindy part has a pretty fun origin story.
Oh, yeah. Suta.
So her parents, they immigrated from Bengal to the U.S. in 1979, the year she was born.
Okay.
And apparently, while they were still in Bengal planning the move, they were big fans of the American TV show Mork and Mindy.
Get out. Right.
Yep. Loved the name Mindy so much, they decided, if they had a daughter, that would be her name. She's even said she's never actually been called Vera.
Wow. So her connection to American TV started like before she even got here. That's amazing.
It's a neat little detail, isn't it? And you can see those early influences popping up.
Yeah, she's talked about watching shows like Dr. Katz, SNL.
Frasier, Cheers, a real mix of comedy styles.
Definitely.
All right.
What do you think she took from those different shows? It's quite a range.
Well, you've got the sharp character stuff in Frasier and Cheers, then the sketch comedy of SNL, and that sort of observational style of Dr. Katz.
Right.
It feels like she was absorbing it all, figuring out different ways to be funny, different kinds of voices.
And then she got that internship, right, at Dartmouth.
Yeah, sophomore year at Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Imagine that, being
Absolutely.
thrown into that world as a student.
Must have been incredible. A real trial by fire, I bet.
And it seems like around then, she started thinking about representation, not seeing families like hers on TV.
Exactly. She's mentioned that growing up as a child of immigrants gave her this, well, she called it an everyone against me mentality. But she sort of flipped it, used it as fuel for her writing, gave her a unique perspective.
That outsider feeling often does that, doesn't it? Makes you observe things differently.
Yeah, and it's interesting, later on for the Mindy Project, she named her character Mindy Lahiri.
After Jimbo Lahiri, the author.
Right. Seems like a deliberate nod to her heritage, wanting to bring those kinds of stories forward.
Weaving her own background into the narrative she wanted to create. It wasn't all smooth sailing, though. She had some rough jobs.
Oh, yeah. She described being a production assistant on Crossing Over with John Edward as one of her worst job experiences.
I can only imagine. The things you do to break in.
Totally. And at the same time, she was doing stand-up comedy.
Right, honing the craft.
And that's actually when she started using Mindy Kaling. Apparently, MCs kept stumbling over Chokalingam.
So it was partly just practical. Makes sense.
Yeah, a small thing, kind of important for building that stage identity.
And she toured with Craig Robinson before The Office.
She did. Who knew Daryl Philbin and Mindy Kaling were doing stand-up together back then?
Small world, the comedy scene.
Yeah.
But then came Matt and Ben. That felt like a real turning point.
Oh, absolutely. 2002, off-Broadway, she co-wrote it and starred in it.
And the twist was she played Ben Affleck.
She played Ben Affleck. And her friend Brenda Withers played Matt Damon.
That's brilliant. What was the premise again?
It was this, goofy take on how Damon and Affleck supposedly wrote Good Will Hunting. Like, the script just fell from the sky into their apartment.
Amazing. And it was a hit.
A surprise hit. Time magazine called it one of the top 10 theatrical events of the year.
Wow. That's huge for an off-Broadway play with that kind of quirky concept.
Totally. It showed her cleverness, her take on fame, and just, her comedic guts. Playing Affleck.
It really signaled her unique comedic voice. And she was already doing other creative stuff too, like blogging.
Yeah, she had a blog called Things I've Bought That I Love.
Catchy.
And she even wrote sometimes under the name Mindy Efron.
As in Nora Ephron.
Yeah, like she was a lost Efron sister. Just playing with that idea, an Indian-American woman as part of that famous writing family. Finding the humor in it.
That's so sharp.
Yeah.
It shows that wit was always there. All this must have paved the way for The Office.
Absolutely. Greg Daniels, who was adapting the UK show for the US, read a spec script she'd written.
And he saw something special.
He did. He brought her on in 2004 as a writer-performer, said she had this sharp eye for anything phony or lazy or passé, high praise.
Definitely. And she was young, only 24. And the only woman on that initial writing team.
The only woman out of 8 writers, yeah.
That must have been quite the experience, both challenging and a big opportunity, I imagine.
For sure, bringing that different perspective into the room. And then pretty quickly, we met her on screen.
Kelly Kapoor, Episode 2, Diversity Day.
Instantly memorable.
Oh, completely. Just this whirlwind of celebrity obsession and boy drama.
And Mindy herself had a funny take on the character. She said Kelly was like an exaggerated version of what I think the upper-level writers believe my personality is.
Huh. That's so meta and self-aware, using their perception to build the comedy.
Exactly. And she didn't just write and act on the show. She started directing, too.
Right. She directed a webisode, The Third Floor.
And then a proper episode, Body Language, in Season 6. Her TV directorial debut.
Adding another skill to the list. She was busy, also doing small movie roles around this time.
Yep. Popping up in things like The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Unaccompanied Minors.
Licensed to Wed.
Right. And that role as the tour guide in Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, little parts, building experience.
It all adds up. And back at the office, her role kept growing behind the scenes, too.
Definitely. By Season 8, she was promoted to full executive producer.
That's significant.
And huge.
Yeah.
That came with a development deal for her own show. The industry was clearly saying, okay, we want your voice, your vision.
That's the dream, isn't it? Moving from contributing to leading your own thing, which became the Mindy Project.
Precisely. So she did eventually leave the office as a regular after the episode New Guys in Season 9.
But she came back for the finale, thankful.
Had to. Give Kelly a proper send-off. But yeah, by then the next chapter was already well underway.
Okay, let's just pause here for a second. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Mindy Kaling's journey, and how could you not be, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast. We've got lots more stories like this coming up.
Definitely subscribe. Okay, so post-office, Mindy really branches out even more. We talked about her creating her own show, but she also became a best-selling author.
Right, those memoirs. Is everyone hanging out without me?
And other concerns. And then, why not me?
And nothing like I imagined, except for sometimes.
All New York Times bestsellers. It just shows how well her voice translates to the page. People really connect with her observations.
Totally relatable and funny. And her work on The Office continued to get recognized, right? Emmy nominations.
Yeah, the show got nominated for Outstanding Comedy Series 5 times in a row while she was there. And she personally got an Emmy nomination for writing for the Niagara episode.
Ah, the wedding episode. A classic. Co-written with Greg Daniels.
A fan favorite, for sure. But, you know, it wasn't always easy. She actually faced some sexism regarding her producer credit on The Office.
Really? How so?
Well, the Television Academy apparently questioned her credit, tried to cut her from the list of producers eligible for an Emmy nomination, even though she was writing and producing. She had to fight for that recognition.
Wow. That's disappointing to hear, but good on her for standing her ground.
Yeah, it highlights those ongoing struggles for women in the industry. But she kept pushing forward, doing more film work, too.
Like No Strings Attached, a 5-year engagement.
And voice acting. She was in Despicable Me.
Oh, yeah. And Wreck-It Ralph.
As Taffeta Mutton Fudge.
Huh, yes.
Yeah.
And Disgust and Inside Out.
Such a perfect voice role for her.
Yeah.
So expressive.
Totally. And then, of course, 2012 was huge. The Mindy Project launched.
Created, produced, starring. Full creative control.
And she started her own production company that year, too, Kaling International.
Yep. Really taking the reins. Building her own brand, her own platform.
And the world was noticing. Wasn't she on the Time 100 list around there?
2013, yeah.
Yeah.
Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People, which is, wow.
Huge recognition. And she kept creating shows. Champions on NBC.
Co-created, wrote, produced that one. Had a recurring role, too. Didn't last long, but showed her continued drive to make new things.
And big movie roles kept coming, too. A Wrinkle in Time as Mrs. Who.
Very cool casting. And part of the Ocean's 8 crew.
That was a fun one. Star-studded.
Definitely. But I think a really significant recent project has been Never Have I Ever on Netflix.
Oh, absolutely. Huge hit. And really personal for her, right? Partly on her childhood.
Yeah, inspired by her own teen years. And it got so much praise for, you know, its representation of a South Asian American family, but also just for being funny and heartfelt.
It really struck a chord. Great storytelling. But not everything lands the same way, does it? Like Velma.
Right. The adult animated Scooby-Doo spinoff on HBO Max, she executive produced and voiced Velma.
And the reaction was, well, mixed. Maybe leading negative.
Yeah, it was definitely divisive, sparked a lot of online debate. It shows, you know, reimagining iconic characters is tricky territory.
True. You can't please everyone. But she keeps diversifying.
Hmm.
She's on the board of the Smithsonian's National Museum of Asian Art now.
Since 2023. Yeah, shows her influence goes beyond just Hollywood.
And she produced a short film, Nietzsche.
Yep, and it just got nominated for an Oscar. Best live-action short for the upcoming awards.
Incredible. So she's supporting other filmmakers, different kinds of stories, too.
Seems like it. And there's more coming. That Netflix show, Running Point, inspired by Jeannie Buss of the Lakers.
Right, the sports comedy. Premiered in 2025. She just keeps going.
Doesn't seem to slow down.
Yeah.
And amidst all this, there's her personal life, too.
Yeah, she has 3 kids now.
And she's been very private about their paternity, which is, her choice to make in the public eye.
Understandable. Protecting her family.
Mm-hmm.
She's also talked about her Hindu faith.
Mm-hmm. Wants to raise her kids with that background, that connection to her heritage.
Which feels consistent with how she approaches representation in her work, too.
Yeah, seems important to her identity. And of course, you can't talk about her personal connections without mentioning B.J. Novak.
Right. Their dynamic is legendary. From the Office days.
On again, off again dating back then. But now, just this incredibly close friendship. He's godfather to her first 2 kids.
And he called her the most important person in my life. That's quite a bond.
Really unique, especially in that world.
And the accolades kept coming. Glamour Woman of the Year.
Back in 2014, an honorary doctorate from Dartmouth in 2018.
That's a nice full circle moment back at her alma mater.
It is. More recently, like many public figures, she weighed in on world events, expressing support for Israel on social media in late 2023.
Which always tends to generate discussion when you have that kind of platform.
Exactly. And the recognition continues. The LA Times featured her in their LA Influential series in 2024.
Acknowledging her impact on the city's creative scene.
And she even spoke at the Democratic National Convention in August 2024, supporting Kamala Harris.
So, engaging politically as well, she really does cover a lot of ground.
She does. And the awards just keep piling up. SAG Awards, a Tony Award.
Wait, a Tony? Oh.
As a producer. For the musical, A Strange Loop.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Plus all the Emmy nods.
And then some really major honors recently. The Producers Guild gave her the Norman Lear Award in 2021.
Named after a legend. That's huge for television achievement.
And in 2023, she received the National Medal of the Arts from President Biden.
Yeah, that's about as big as it gets in terms of recognizing contribution to American culture.
Right. A truly remarkable trajectory.
It really is. When you trace it all from that Mork and Mindy-inspired name through stand-up, Matt and Ben, The Office, creating her own shows, writing books, producing, it's incredible.
What stands out is that unique blend, isn't it? The humor, definitely, but also those sharp insights about identity, culture, just being human.
Yeah, and she consistently used her platform to push for different kinds of stories, different faces on screen, broke down a lot of doors.
She really did. A true force in the industry.
Well, Mindy Kaling's story really shows what can happen when you embrace what makes you different and just, well, run with it. A great reminder for all of us, maybe.
Definitely something to think about. What stories are out there waiting to be told from unique perspectives?
Exactly. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive on Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast. We'll catch you next time.